this, and B, please save your questions till last. But I'm very, very happy to receive any and all kinds of questions. I'll probably be in the bar to do that because we'll be kicked out.
What's your sexual orientation?
Jesus Christ.
Married. Oh, well, I know you're religious and all.
Anyway, so I put this disclaimer in for the under 30s because the under 30s have just looked at me blankly about pre-internet weebing, I guess. So yeah, welcome. The under and over 30s are welcome. Some of you will be here to get nostalgia and probably relive some trauma and expense. But yeah, so who the heck is giving this talk? This is me. I was 17 here, selling my stuff at Shinankai, which was held at Heathrow Airport, I think, in London, and it was the first convention I attended on my own, and I took my photocopied comics and went with my friend because we were making fanzines at the time. So I went on a coach with a box of comics from the West Midlands, Digbeth Coach Station, because, yeah, I was a part of the early UK anime community, including Minamicon, which was great. So yeah, I did a lot of work and on fanzines, and yeah, so I'm a Xennial. So what the heck is a Xennial? So it's a micro-generation that serves as a bridge between the disaffection of Gen X and the blithe optimism of millennials, or elder geriatric millennial, which I think that's a bit ageist as well. So to me that means I basically had the upbringing in an analog media world and then the digital early adulthood when I went to university, basically. So the aim of this talk is to not be about me, but I'm adding a caveat here that my experiences have formed the core path of this talk, plus with some added research around my own lived experience to hopefully relay more of an overarching view from the UK. So, internet. So yeah, I know. Can you just feel your back breaking right now? So yeah.
I can hear the noise.
It's a poppin'. So in the UK in 1966, the MPL pioneered packet switching technology, crucial for the internet's development, don't you know? But the UK internet actually really began in the early 1970s because UCL in London established ARPANET in '73. But commercial UK internet access grew to the UK public in the 1990s. So for the sake of this talk, my cut-off point will exactly be 1999. And I'll also be talking about the more general teenage UK anime fan experience, as opposed to someone who had the university level technical expertise or Japanese language expertise and contacts, so maybe some easier access to anime. So if you're not a teenager 30 years ago, let me tell you how it all began. Yeah, so please be kind. Yeah. I still don't understand it. Anyway, before any of us were born, the UK got Japanese manga and anime in a way through illustrations, theatre, decorative furnishings and musings during our Victorian times. So Japan opened to the West in the 1850s, and Victorian London was flooded with Japanese goods. In illustration, artists such as Aubrey Beardsley were influenced by the composition and style of ukiyo-e woodblock prints, as can be seen in his illustration to Oscar Wilde's Salome? The peacock skirt. So yeah, his chum Oscar Wilde coined a well-meant but a bit of a contentious word for this phenomenon, Orientalism. Yeah, so he called it the Eternal East, and he was writing about the simple, serene, perfume-scented Japan of Orientalist imaginings. And in theatre, Gilbert and Sullivan's The Mikado was heavily influenced by late 19th century British fascination with Japanese art and culture. Their play, The Mikado, is not actually about Japan, it's an imaginary monarch. The plot was thinly veiled critique about the failings of the British government and Victorian society. So a bit past aggro, I think, really, yeah. So Japonisme is a French term referring to the popularity and influence of Japanese art and design amongst Western European artists in the 19th century, the historic weeaboo, if you will. So weebs be weebing in a Victorian England kind of way, but then 2 world wars happened, which sort of put a stop to all that for a bit. So after World War II, lingering Western hostility towards Japan shaped media culture. Anime and manga were largely unknown until the 90s, and Japanese names and aesthetics were heavily localized, most visibly in 1990s video game box art. And it actually persisted into the 2000s before basically the internet eroded it. So the UK only had one television channel at this point, so a lot of people went to the cinema. So Rashomon in 1950 was actually the first Japanese film widely released in the UK, premiering in 1952, directed by Akira Kurosawa. And you might have heard of the next one. The original 1954 Godzilla film was released in its re-edited Americanized version, titled Godzilla, King of the Monsters, with the very un-PC subheader of Makes King Kong Look Like a Midget? DEI is coming for you in 1956, yeah. And at this point, ITV then launched in the UK in 1955, but there was no anime on there yet, though. So, yeah. Oh, sorry, I mucked up that slide. So, yeah, today, made in Japan, anime is no big deal. But before the 90s, US TV executives were really nervous about kids watching anything that wasn't made in America, because there was a fear of complaints coming in from mums and dads about foreign ideas sneaking in. So Toei launched in 1956, aiming for global audiences, and made Japan's first colour, widescreen animated films. But in the West, Japanese names were stripped from the credits. Early releases like Magic Serpent, the one on the right, Magic Boy, that was not released in the UK, but Magic Serpent was, and Alakazam also was released in the UK. They were heavily renamed, awkwardly dubbed, and felt really, really slow compared to Disney. So audiences found them, quote, too foreign, and they flopped. So after that, anime films were mostly dumped into cheap afternoon cinema matinees, Saturday afternoon TV slots, or later on the bargain video market. But adding here in 1968, The Green Slime, I didn't have a picture, sorry, was made, and that was the first live-action animated sci-fi horror. That was a co-production between Japan and Toei, by Toei and America and MGM. So apart from that, nothing remotely anime-ish aired in the UK between 61 and 69 until Marine Boy showed up. Way before my time, but my dad loved it. So that's how I actually knew about Marine Boy. So, made in Japan, but built for US television, Marine Boy was one of the first colour anime series to hit Western screens. It aired in America alongside Speed Racer. In the UK, it was the BBC One aired it in '69, and it was basically an underwater James Bond. Gadgets, jet boots, miracle oxy gum, so he could breathe underwater with his chewing gum. I bet sales of Wrigley Spearmint really went up at that point. And a scene-stealing dolphin sidekick called Splasher. And he also had a friend called Neptina, who owned a magic pearl that could locate him whenever he went missing, which was apparently quite a lot. So, it's just weaponised incompetence, isn't it, really? So Marine Boy was the UK's first real taste of anime, even if nobody called it that. So yeah, moving on. In the 70s in Japan, anime got quite complex, darker, and serialised, so examples of this new audience anime, Ashton no Joe, Tomorrow's Joe, Lupin the Third, Space Cruiser Yamato, and Gundam. But that type of anime didn't fit Western TV expectations during the 70s because it was too foreign. It was too serious and it was too awkward and dark to localise, so basically any animation from Japan got sidelined until companies figured out how to repackage it, however. So the UK did not get Astro Boy, Speed Racer, Star Blazers, or Robotech. So whenever you hear about, oh, the start of anime, like in America, even though English speaking was not the same as ours. But we did get Marine Boy, obviously, and Battle of the Planets. And this also aired on the BBC One on September the 3rd, '79, so I was 1 month old. So my dad loved this, so this was baby's first anime. So Battle of the Planets was an American-produced localization of science ninja team Gatchaman, a 5-member superhero ninja team as they saved the world from the mysterious secret organization known as the Galactor. So the Western Battle of the Planets adaptation differs significantly from Gatchaman due to heavy editing. It made the show appealing to audiences in the West by removing controversial elements like graphic violence. Oh no, those people on that planet that just blew up, they are safe. And adding elements reminiscent of Star Wars, which was really, funnily enough, really popular at the time. So the name Battle of the Planets was an attempt to associate itself with the popularity of Star Wars, and if you watch Battle of the Planets, this is hysterically obvious in the opening credits, just going up into space. So working at Tatsunoko, just put this in out of interest, was Yoshitaka Amano. So he began his career there in '67, working on anime such as Speed Racer and Gatchaman. So Amano's influences include early Western comic books, funnily enough, Orientalism, Art Nouveau, and Japanese woodwork. So keep an eye on that Tatsunoko Pro logo. And it's worth noting here that most anime in Britain during this era was not directly imported from Japan, it was purchased via America or European distributors, so it's already gone through the process. So, Monkey. This ran for 2 years, a cult classic Japanese show based on the Chinese novel, 16th century Chinese novel, Journey to the West. And it's often nicknamed Monkey Magic due to its theme tune. And that's sang by a Japanese band called Go Daigo, also in English, so that was great. So it's a cult live-action favourite for anyone in the UK over 14, basically. Remembered for its gloriously over-the-top dubbing and a recent Y2K revival. So it aired on the BBC in '79 and was many viewers' first real exposure to Japanese live-action TV. At the time, only 39 of the original 52 episodes were dubbed, but the remaining 13 episodes were actually dubbed in 2004, using the original voice cast, and this later aired on Channel 4. So yeah. So interestingly, it once aired in China, but it was cancelled after episode 3 because it strayed too far from the original source material, and Dragon Ball didn't. What? Okay. So yeah. So the 70s were another dry spell overall for anime and manga in the UK. So imports from Japan were dismissed as cheap, badly dubbed. And unlike France or Italy, where anime was booming, the UK was slower to adopt. And usually heavily edited versions arrived. So Hanna-Barbera was still dominating animation at the time. It ruled America TV since the Flintstones in the 60s. And it was cranking out most of the Saturday morning cartoons by the 70s. So the little baby Godzilla is called Godzuki. And Godzuki was Hanna-Barbera's officially licensed kid-friendly kaiju, a little sidekick in the Godzilla Power Hour in '78, parts of which aired on the BBC. So possibly the Scrappy-Doo of the Western kaiju world. So it's worth noting Godzuki is not canon. So Godzilla's actual family is Minilla and Godzilla Jr. So yes, suck it, Godzuki. So what next? It is important to mention the creation of the direct comic market. Ooh. So yeah, the UK's direct comic market, started bubbling up in the late 70s, a few years after the US figured it out in the early 70s. So these were created to help collectors frustrated by random patchy newsagent supplies of American comics. So case in point, my dad is a Silver Age comics collector, and he told me he used to get comics from grocery stores, are they near an army base? It was random. You would never know what you would get, so yeah, but once you were hooked on American comic books. So fans, such as my dad, relied on specialist importers who began to build the direct network to bring over Marvel and DC comics, and later on Japanese toy collectibles and comics, amongst other countries' imports. So other ways to find comics were early comic marts. It's not Comic Con, it's not a comic shop. So a comic mart is a specific type of trade fair. It's a bit like a boot sale with long boxes. I used to go to one in one of the Birmingham churches every month with my dad, and that one you'd see, that's actually a modern photo of one that happens in London, but it looks exactly like that. So other ways to find comics were these comic marts and specialist shops that one that no one's ever heard of called Forbidden Planet. There was also one called Weird Fantasy, so someone like the EC Horror, and this is a great name, Dark They Were, Golden-Eyed. So yeah, imagine typing that out every time. So Titan Distributors, founded in '78, helped make the whole thing work by getting imported American comics straight into these shops. So while the English-speaking direct market really took off in the 80s, foundations were laid at the tail end of the 70s, back when comics were still as niche, disposable pop culture, and the concept of a big Comic-Con, no one could conceive that idea. So I believe these two UK issues of Starburst magazine were actually the first to cover Japanese animation in the UK in print. One in '78 and one in 1980. So this UK coverage, it might have even predated American magazine coverage of anime and Western media. So the first was Volume 1, Number 2 in '78, which covered Space Cruiser Yamato. And then Starburst magazine, number 17, published by Marvel UK when we actually had a comics industry. In the 80s, covered Yamato again, plus Future Robot Daltanius. But at this time, coverage of any animation specifically from Japan mostly showed up in these import magazines. In America, Fangoria and Starlog. And yes, you'd only find those in specialist comic shops. So Fred Patton from America was a key early voice writing some of these first serious English language pieces on Japanimation, still makes me laugh. Japanimation in the early 80s, helping introduce anime to Western sci-fi fans in America. So even in Japan, anime and manga weren't fully mainstream, and coverage in Japan, anywhere, lived in these niche magazines. Early conventions were general sci-fi events with an anime section as a bolt-on, and the Daikon 3 and Daikon 4 convention animations show this. You know, there's lots of Western science fiction and Godzilla and a bit of anime and all sorts in it. Anime conventions, as we know it today, only pivoted in the early 80s, mainly because of rabid fan bases in Japan, those otaku. So Japan shifted hard towards sci-fi in general. Space, Battleship Yamato and Gundam were massive fandom hits, and America was just starting to notice anime through localization of Yamato, which was called Star Blazers, and as you know, Gatchaman, Battle of the Planets. And Starlog was actually brought to Japan in 1978 to capitalise on this science fiction boom following the release of that film again, Star Wars, and sits right in the middle of that cultural exchange, and it laid the groundwork for the anime sci-fi storyline mashups we take for granted today. So here's Fred Patton's coverage of Urusei Yatsura, what eventually became known as Robotech, and so on, and then we finally sidestep into the 80s. But yeah, in the UK, mainstream newsagents and comics are certainly not dead, especially for kids. We had a great comics market at one point. Battle of the Planets specifically appeared in TV Comic, which was the first weekly British comic based on television characters, so you could read about Battle of the Planets in Sooty, if you wanted to. Random. So we got loads. We got like sticker books and comic book compilation annuals and copy colour. I don't know what that means. Magic painting books, which I definitely remember. I just put water on and there was an ink. Everyone's like, oh, unlocked, memory unlocked. Yes, they're probably toxic, I don't know. And colouring books, of course. But they're so great and nice and colourful, and I just wanted to give a whole slide. So then, it is a baby's. We'll sort that out. So Starfleet, no, not from Star Trek, was short-lived, immense, and brilliant. It aired in the UK in '82. It was a dubbed version of the Japanese show X-Bomber, and it was peak Saturday morning TV. And this was ITV's first show from Japan. It's a space opera about desperate Earth launching X-Bomber to stop an evil space empire, complete with renamed characters. But it is actually one of the least butchered Japanese imports of the era. And it's actually often mistaken for a Jerry Anderson show, thanks to the puppets and the shared voice talent. It was... Pardon?
I think I remember it.
I was going to say, wasn't some of it inspired by Thunderbirds?
Oh, I'm coming to that. Yes, same track. But at the time, it wasn't. But it was probably the UK's first real taste of marionette tokusatsu, and it absolutely kicked ass. So yeah, keep an eye on, at the bottom, Dynamic. And at this point, History Point Channel 4 began broadcasting in the UK in 1982, but no anime on that yet either. Yet. So in the UK, Starfleet also appeared in Lookin' magazine, which was like a TV Times anthology magazine / comic for kids. Lewis Ellman, the director commissioned to produce the English dub of Starfleet, said seeing it on the front cover of Lookin' made him realise he knew he was onto a hit. And it was in the UK. But in Japan it flopped after 12 episodes. Aww. But the full dub aired in the UK in October '82, barely promoted and totally overshadowed by Star Wars appearing on television the very next day. It still felt so different from everything that was on kids' TV, thanks to its uniquely but secret, due to the localisation, Japanese style. So yeah, I bloody love Starfleet, by the way, if you can't tell already. Like, it still holds up. And these UK comics were compiled into a 1984 annual. Comic adaptations of a TV show were a natural media progression. So yeah, loved it. I think it was 2000 AD artists. But yeah, so yeah, I love it. It's inspired me as well, and my artwork. But all of this made me full circle as the puppet and the robot characters were designed no other than Go Nagai. What? So Dynamic Planning is manga artist Go Nagai's company, and of course he made iconic works like Mazinger Z, Ozzy, Doubleman, and Ghetto Robo. So yes, the guy created the character designs for Starfleet and worked on the series as it sounded like a unique and unusual project. So yeah, what a dapper young man. Actually drawing all the Starfleet characters here as well. So yeah, how do you go from Starfleet to Devilman? But he did. So before Starfleet, he created Mazinger Z and Getter Robo, which was the first combining robot show. And the UK never got Getter Robo, so Starfleet was basically the UK's first experience of the concept of conjoining robots. And after Starfleet's 80s run, it vanished until a couple of VHS kids video releases, and then this full DVD release. So I hadn't seen the entirety of Starfleet since I was essentially a toddler until I got it on DVD in 2009. And then it was released in Blu-ray as well. And then the Blu-ray gave you the original X-Bomber episodes as well, which was great. So the director actually negotiated for LWT to actually fund Series 2 of Starfleet and possibly Series 3. But when he approached the Japanese studio, Clover Studios, it had actually caught fire and all the models and the sets, they were all gone. So the UK could have led the way in Japanese co-production media, but it was not meant to be. So France later picked up the co-production baton instead. What could have been? But what's really weird is that the series even inspired Starfleet Project by Brian May, because he's a massive nerd. So Brian May re-recorded the opening theme to the TV series Starfleet for fun and released it for fun, and his friends included Eddie Van Halen. Like, it's wild, just wild. So it's great, but it's wild. So yeah, so this Venn diagram essentially should have been a circle, but Star Wars plus Jerry Anderson equals whatever you like the most in anime and manga, especially in the 80s and the 90s. So of course everybody knows about Star Wars, but probably everybody does here. But I get the feeling the younger generation doesn't really know as much as Jerry Anderson as they might do Star Wars, just because there's not many new Jerry Anderson things. So yeah, Starfleet hit in '82 before Jerry Anderson's Terrorhawks, which is such a big deal because Anderson made obvious classics like Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, and so on in the 60s, and they were massive UK hits. Like everybody knew them. Like I think my mum and dad actually, when they started hanging out as teenagers, it's like science fiction. It was one of those things that they talked about. And my granddad as well. Like he was just so heavily into Jerry Anderson. But actually in the 70s, Anderson's career stalled, he had money troubles, and he actually had no news shows commissioned since '76. But there's also a weird anime parallel, because this is Shin Thunderbirds. So, at the time, in Japan, the complete Thunderbirds was cut together by a 25-year-old Hideaki Anno, which was his first professional job. And he basically made a TV movie out of some episodes. But I love this. Thunderbirds is British tokusatsu at the time. Which it is. They're not wrong. But like, and that was like so scary. Sorry for the young children, anybody else scared by that. But like this was it. This was like, you go from Starfleet to Terrorhawks, like amazing. So in the early 80s, Jerry Anderson teamed up with Christopher Burr to revive an old idea he pitched. This is where we're coming from. To Japan in 1978, an anime concept called Thunderhawks, but that never got made. So when the pitch fell through, the two reworked it into Terrorhawks in '83. So Anderson returned to puppets, but instead of marionettes, he used some glove puppet style marionettes inspired by Jim Henson at the time.
Is it just me, or does that look like Leonard Nimoy?
Yeah. But what's also really weird is that Thunderbirds 2086 appeared on tape later on. It's an adaptation of scientific rescue team Techno Boygar.
Nice.
Am I saying it? I'm probably not saying it right, sorry. It's vaguely like original Thunderbirds, but also kind of not. So the English dub was produced by ITC Entertainment, which was the original production company for Thunderbirds, but Jerry Anderson and his then wife Sylvia were not involved with 2086. But what I find also funny is that there's this space witch coincidence. So Starfleet and Terrorhawks coincides with Makara and Zelda.
Oh my god!
Like run behind the sofa, terrifying as well, but great. But anyway, enough of weird space witches. So we were also starting to play video games in arcades. So Pac-Man was released in the UK in '81. Because of the high demand and lack of an official UK distributor, many early UK Pac-Man machines were bootlegs or imported models before it became a staple, so God knows what we were all playing in the fish and chip shop up the road. And Donkey Kong was released on my birthday, 2nd of August, '81, so I was 2, thanks Nintendo for that early gift, that's great. So other than playing arcade cabinets, reading comics, watching Saturday morning and weekend TV show, we were watching film, VHS. So Flash #1, this was released in '84, cheap and cheerful, UK promo tape from a company Mountain Video, and they styled it like a comic on a video to plug their kids' catalogues. And this stitched together random clips of cartoons. It's so messy, so you had Mazinger Z, Unico, and Techno Police, which sounds a bit like a manga video thing, but it's not. But yeah, Japanese animation had started to slip into bargain bins and rental shops. So in America, Rankin Bass became famous for stop-motion holiday specials in America, but we mainly got The Hobbit, The Last Unicorn, and a couple of VHS releases as well. So yeah, all kids stuff, but all co-produced, funded by an American company, but animated by Japanese companies. So yeah. So, at this point in time, Children's ITV, launched in '83, weirdly beat Children's BBC by 2 years in '85. So, in the early '80s, Spanish company BRB Internacional teamed up with Japan's Nippon Animation, and it licensed anime for Spain before co-producing their own hits like D'Artagnan and Around the World with Willy Fogg. So D'Artagnan's '85, and the D'Artagnan theme tune was so popular, the BBC released it on vinyl. Willy Fogg aired in 1987, and it became such a hit. Andy Crane led sing-along songs, and he sent out song sheets, and even declared National Willy Fogg Day, which is celebrated on April 28th, by the way. So yeah, that marked the conclusion of Willy Fogg. And Children's BBC also aired Ulysses 31. I know. So yeah, 31 was a reimagined futuristic version of The Odyssey by Homer in space. And The Mysterious Cities of Gold was a 16th century kids adventure series. So yeah, coincidentally, you can actually sing along properly this weekend during Minamicon karaoke later on. In '85, so in '85, Walt Disney Television Animation Group was created, and they began outsourcing studios to make the Wuzzles and the Gummy Bears with TMS, Tokyo Movie Shinsha, in Japan, which is why the quality is epic. So the entire Wuzzles short-lived 18-episode season, you still can't get that on DVD or VHS, it's like in licensing limbo, so get to the Internet Archive if you want to watch some quality Wuzzles. And the first 4 seasons of the Gummy Bears as well. So in the 80s, Children's BBC, a bit quick. BBC and ITV, basically, and VHS had started to come out now. So we had a load of Japanese Western co-productions like Mask, Thundercats and Silverhawks, Centurions and The Real Ghostbusters. And this also includes one of my favourites, Galaxy High School. It was animated by TMS again. It was actually intentionally developed to be a reverse Urusei Yatsura premise. So instead of an alien coming to Earth, Earthlings went and visited and went to school with the aliens. So it's a great fish out of water series. And yeah, later Batman animated series. So these shows all blended American or European IP with Japanese studios. And again, without viewers realising they were watching anime adjacent to TV. So by the mid-80s, Sunbow and Marvel were co-producing toy-driven cartoon, basically 30-minute adverts with the help of Japanese studios. So we had G.I. Joe, Transformers, Marvel superheroes, all started life as animated adverts, literally adverts. Defenders of the Earth we had, and then 1987 Visionaries, and this was the first Sunbow show made without Marvel's help. Worth mentioning, one of my favourites, Gem and the Holograms. It ran from 85 to 88, and after Filmation's She-Ra, which was animated in America, but She-Ra and Gem were the most obvious and iconic magical girl shows of our Western childhood. So talking of magical girls and girls' tunes, they were just not given time of day on UK TV, like compared to Japan and Europe at least. So kids who enjoyed watching tunes aimed at girls mainly did so via VHS, books, comics and toys at least. So for example, Lady Lovely Locks, animated by Tatsunoko, Maple Town was Toei, Rainbow Bright was TMS, and Sailor Moon, also Toei. So a very quick tip of the hat to this guy, Shuki Levy. He's the king of at least 1 million of your favourite cartoon themed songs. Like, he wrote them. Like, he is a legend. So respect, Shuki Levy. And there's absolutely no proof that Hello Colour were the first Sanrio projects to be launched in the UK, but this is the first time in my living memory that the UK ever saw official Hello Kitty / Sanrio merchandise. So Tonka distributed the toys in America and Matchbox did in the UK. And these are very, very rare because any toy that, you basically dip them in water and they change colour, but any toy that did get watered on by now will have disintegrated entirely. So yeah, dust. So please don't dob me in for explaining what the heck is tape trading? Who was tape trading in the 80s? Why? What did you need to? So in the early 80s, the UK really panicked about video nasties. Yeah, horror films blamed by tabloids for corrupting children, leading police raids. The Video Recordings Act of 1984, the UK VHS didn't have the UPG-15 certification, like, watch whatever. So before the clampdown, new VHS distributors were importing the most obscure, uncertified films from around the world, many never shown in UK cinemas. So once bans and tape confiscations began, curious horror fans, my dad, started tape trading with each other to get, like, why is this banned? Oh, yeah, that's why. He said he watched Cannibal Holocaust a couple of years ago and he's like, just don't. So that's a warning, just do not, it's not a recommendation. So yeah, curiosity. So yeah, you basically copied tapes to see, well, why have they banned it? Because they became illegal, unavailable from the video shop. So later on, when manga video launched in the 90s, like Akira and more explicit titles, anime faced scrutiny. And weirdly, Disney also kind of did the opposite. So it locked films in the Disney vault. So it was like, here you go, VHS, oh no, yeah, pulled it away. So as a kid, you'd see these adverts for films that you just could not watch, which just feels so wild, unless you knew someone that also had Disney and another VHS player. So it wasn't for a few years until I actually realised what the start of The Jungle Book and Snow White sounded like, because it was like, because we tape traded it. But yeah, not just horror, not just Disney, people wanted to watch weird cartoons from Japan. So yeah, tape trading, anime in the 80s and 90s was just DIY. You swap VHS tapes through post with a self-addressed envelope, through pen pals, and you juggled for PAL, NTSC, CCAM. You needed someone with a very expensive VHS player and some cables, lots of patience. You pressed play and hit record at the same time, and you had to wait for it to run. You couldn't just copy your file and it's done, you had to watch the film again. And you pause it, swap tapes to add something else onto a 3-hour tape and repeat. So you're basically making VHS mixtapes for your mates. And you basically had to make sure, if you didn't want to record over anything, you basically had to snap the tab. When you bought a shiny fresh VHS, it had an unbroken tape, but then you just stick some sellotape on it again if you wanted to tape over it. But this was all the technology available at the time, so you appreciated it, and you got such top-tier quality footage like this, often without any subtitles at all, or if there were, you couldn't read them. So yeah, but you appreciated it for what it was, because it was something new and exciting. So yeah, I know, right? So I gotta, yes. So, let's have a look at some prices, all right? So in 1983, it would cost $399 for a machine, 20, 30 quid to like buy Aliens or whatever on tape, and a blank tape was between £5 and £10 now. So those are the top. So how much would that cost today? So if you wanted a VHS player, you know, that's how much it would cost. That's how much it would cost you to buy an official VHS, and that was a blank cassette.
You needed 2 of the players.
And you need to sit, well, you and your mate, so you buy one, your mate buy one, go around each other's house on a Saturday. And laser discs, yeah, they are like record LP-sized CDs that had sound out, very high quality. I mean, so that was that, and to buy, and actually, because of course, laser disc players, you couldn't record onto them. But yeah, today's equivalent cost, painful. So yeah, this is why people shared. So anime clubs, often based there at universities for anime, central this is me talking about anime, sorry, they were the central hubs for sharing, trading, and viewing tapes. And also in cities with large Chinatowns, bootleg VHS tapes from Hong Kong were really common, including anime and video CDs that had begun to circulate. So I'm just going to very quickly jump back to kid videos. Shout out to The Mouse and His Child, which is such a bleak film, it drove me to tears as a 9-year-old. Like, I put it here because Sanrio co-produced it. But also, if a TV series like Starfleet, if it wasn't repeated on television, and then only the first few episodes would be released on an official VHS cassette, the concept of watching the complete series was just a dream. Like, it was never released on tape in full. So expensive until DVD. But some tapes were more legit than others. So if you compare Battle of the Planets and Samurai Pizza Cats here with Cybots 3, what is that? So Krypton Force Videos released loads of giant robot anime, including Force 5. They overlaid their graphics with their own like Transformers-inspired titles. And the fans that collect these tapes suspect this company did not get any rights from anyone when they made the tapes, mainly because the actual tapes they used were a bit questionable. And looking on a blog, someone said, one of mine contained an episode of the old BBC sitcom Sykes at the end, complete with Norwegian subtitles. And another tape had a Channel 4 news bulletin at the end. So yeah, Crushers was a kid's edit of Crusher Joe, and look at the tragic art in comparison. Like, why? And Mastervision's UK VHS catalogue mixed anime, European, Japanese co-production, even without using the proper titles. Like you see Space Wars here, it's actually a mini-movie using Starfleet. Like Starfleet isn't even on the front cover. And they were just presented simply as children's adventure. Yeah, and World of the Talisman is basically Planet Busters, and Hideaki Anno was a key animator on that. So yeah, we did actually get a tiny bit of showdown. They're all released on VHS. So yeah, you just got 2 episodes. That was it. The last children's BBC anime was Belle and Sebastian, which never completed its entire run over the school holidays, and I threw an absolute shit fit about that in 1989. Still haven't seen it, I'm still angry. But in the 1990, UK satellite dishes had launched, so the children's channel was showing the Little Bits, Noozles, Moomins and Mrs. Pepperpot, and forgive my translation, but I thought it was really funny. Mrs. Pepperpot was known as Gentle Spoon Auntie. So cute. So yeah, Motormouth. What was Motormouth? It was a Saturday morning ITV show from 88 to 92. It was hosted by Gabby Roslin, Andy Crane, and Art Attack's Neil Buchanan. So yeah. In 1991, for about 12 episodes, Motormouth showed Samurai Pizza Cats. It was wild. Yeah, because the original materials were missing. The dub team went full comedy. It was pop culture jokes, fourth wall breaks, and a theme tune that literally admits they didn't have the script. So big Ninja Turtles parody energy and strong Animaniacs vibes. So we've got here Yataro, Pururun, and Tsukashi. We call them Polyester, Speedy Kavichi, and Guido Anchovy. So yeah, we're officially in the 90s now, and I've got to fit a lot of slides in this short amount of time, but yeah, things can only get better, etc., etc. So after America almost single-handedly destroyed the home video game market, that is an entire talk, thanks Atari. So Nintendo flew in and were able to salvage everything by calling their Famicom, their family computer, a Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES for short, and manga-esque artwork was making its way into UK living rooms via these instruction manual artworks. And Sega did do the same with their Master System and Mega Drive. Nintendo did it with NES, SNES, or Super NES and Game Boy. And a massive shout out to Sonic the Comic, that still has an enthusiastic, dedicated UK fan base. And as far as I know, it was all UK artists and writers that did Sonic the Comic and still do online. So my hugest, biggest gateway was Superplay. 92 to 96, it focused on Super Nintendo with attention paid to Japanese role-playing games or RPGs, because many of them never got released in UK. If it wasn't for Superplay, I would never heard of it. It's the first time I read about, Final Fantasy, what's that? It leaned heavily into the Japanese game scene, key contributions by Helen McCarthy and Will Overton. And Me Machines launched in 1990 as a multi-format games magazine and split into Me Machines Sega and Nintendo Magazine System in 92, mainly to cash in on the 16-bit console wars. So yeah, it doubled the ad space, but it kind of lost some of the original anarchic edge. So in the 80s, Japan had already soaked up Western sci-fi, funneling inspiration into anime such as Akira and Bubblegum Crisis. But we only got to see some of that in the 90s, so how did we eventually get to see it in the UK? To differentiate cartoons, all of those VHS cartoons for kids, and animation for adults, Manga Video was created to turn Japanese animation into a cool UK brand, using violent and mature content to break through into a market that previously viewed animation as kids' stuff. And in the 90s, the UK had a massive rave era, which merged really well with video games and clubbing, and eventually anime. So Akira imagery featured on many a nightclub flyer, and videos were watched as post-club come-down staples. Anime hitched a ride on the back of the UK's cyberpunk club scene vibes. Manga Video's content either redistributed American videos that had already been released in the States, or they dubbed their own to varying levels of success. So the first releases we got: Akira, Flagship, Fist of the North Star, two of my personal favourites, Project Echo and Dominion Tank Police, because they're funny, and they're still funny. And despite all this noise, Akira, and later on in Ghost in the Shell, they were actually still seen as rare animation standouts. So the wider animation scene stayed niche. But it wasn't just Manga Video. We had Anime Projects, which was the UK arm of Animego. We also had Kiseki, Western Connection, East to West, and even Pioneer had a go. So yeah, shout out to Power Rangers, being the first hybrid Sentai live-action TV serial to be broadcast around '94. On Channel 4, late license started to air anime from Manga Video releases, which was a relief because finally a few more people in my sixth form would understand what I was going on about. And Pokemon started airing as well. Anton Deck did a number of skits. But it was a bit of a weird time being an anime fan, bless you. Especially like as a 16-year-old, because people would either go, "Ooh, you're into that porny, gross anime stuff, thanks, Uratsuki Doji," or "Ooh, you're into babyish Pokemon stuff." But basically, these people didn't want to hear me talk about Sailor Moon or Ranma either, there, so I didn't socialise much, and I just started drawing comics and fanzines instead. And at this point, Channel 5 launched, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't think they've shown any anime ever, but please do correct me. Really got to whiz through these slides, sorry about that. So remember me talking about long boxes at Comic Marts, because that's where you first found manga. So Eclipse was the first US publisher to bring anime and manga. After my talk, go and see Raggedy Man's talk. What room is it in, dear?
4.
There we go, go and see him. So yeah, no one had actually done this before. So Eclipse were the first to bring actual manga to English-speaking audiences. And it partnered with Studio Proteus to publish manga like Area 88, May the Psychic Girl, and later Appleseed and Kamui. They had a deal with Viz, who was an arm of Shogakukan. It helped kickstart US manga publishing. Viz split off in 1988 to find its own American arm. Viz found success in the early 90s with titles like Ranma. I actually have a copy of Ranma issue 1. And it's full colour, it's flipped. They had to package it like American comics to try and get people interested in it. Around the same time, Epic/Marvel released Akira, and eventually Studio Proteus went across to Dark Horse Comics and published other works such as Outlanders and Caravan Kid by Georges Malabé. So Caravan Kid 4 was actually my first manga, flipped left to right in English, that I've ever read, around 93, I think. So yeah, quick mention to Adam Warren, an American comic artist best known for bringing an adaptation of Dirty Pair, and he was an early adopter of manga-influenced art, The Goat. So after graduating from Kubert School, he licensed Dirty Pair from creator Haruka Takachiho, leading to Dirty Pair Biohazards by Eclipse, relating to the last slide. So yeah, after that he made more Dirty Pair original stories and even a Bubblegum Crisis original story for Dark Horse Comics. And in the UK, Dark Horse Comics published Manga Mania in the UK and reprinted loads of Adam Warren series for UK readers. So yeah, the 90s saw the rise of a merry manga. I was like, oh, okay. With Adam Warren leading that charge, like years and years before Tokyo Pop did any OEL. So moving on to fanzines. Zines are DIY fan magazines made by fans for fans, and they mattered because they shared art, opinions, vital information when many mainstream outlets like TV Times, say, or Radio Times didn't at the time. And it's actually where things like Slashfic first appeared, unlike glossy anime mags and game mags full of studio PR zines with just people saying this is cool because of XYZ and you should go and check it out. So yeah, British Robotech UK and a fanzine that I co-created called Anime Babes. Those are on the left, and the Rose and Anime zine are on the right from America. So in the 90s, UK mags like Anime UK and Manga Mania published fan art and manga-inspired comics, letters, helping readers connect, tape trade, and make zines by post Royal Mail. Thank you, Royal Mail, when you were affordable. So yeah, Anime UK started in 1990 as a newsletter, turned into a magazine, later rebranded as Anime FX, but it really laid the groundwork for UK anime journalism that followed. And the two biggest UK anime-inspired artists were, and still are in my opinion, Will Overton, who did the Nadia fan art in the middle, and Steve Kite, who did the Bubble Crisis cover art on the left. And our American counterparts were also doing the same thing. Often magazines and fanzines were indistinguishable in certain magazines in professional content, and not just, you could actually tell when people were like, you need to watch this weird thing. So very quickly, how did people learn how to draw manga? So we copied scraps of Previews magazines, which was basically the monthly Argos of comics. You'd go into your comic shop and say, I want all these comics from Previews, and they would be delivered. Yeah, throw in a weird little independent comic found in a 50p box at a comic mart, and that was the entire art school. And you paused your VHS to trace wobbly freeze frames off the TV screen, and bought any games magazine that reprinted any video game box art to copy. And in the 90s, your only drawing guides were how to draw comics the Marvel way, which, to be fair, is a solid base, and these kids' cartooning books. So you just copied what you could. From Previews, but proper how to draw manga books didn't arrive in English until '99. So the very, very, very late 90s brought us cyberdog designs and fashion visuals, and that lent into the UK's techno and rave club culture. Hello Kitty was 25 years old before it actually officially came to the UK properly. Seeing Angel Hello Kitty and Miss Selfridge was like, oh my god. Helen Love, top right, used some irresponsible Captain Tyler anime art here. Helen Love is an indie band from Wales playing punk rock, bubblegum pop and disco dance fusions. CD cover art by Daphne and Celeste, of all people. And that artwork here is riffing off Gunsmith Cats, and Biz, who also sang the Powerpuff Girls ending theme tune from Scotland. So when I got to university, I went to the library to get an email address and join this Anime Artists UK group that I had heard about on Yahoo groups. I've got one more slide after this, but alas, our journey must come to an end because I mentioned Yahoo groups. So even though anime and manga related images were being uploaded to the internet, like this one from Urusa Yasura in the late 80s, dial-up, you can now begin to hear it in the UK. Dragon Ball Z was a mere whisper on Toonami. Winamp skins started to be created. RAR files of a third of an episode of Sailor Moon allows you to watch anime without having to tape trade, even if it was a television screen at the size of a Pokemon card. And backwards, unflipped manga, bearing that everything was flipped to read left to right. Unflipped manga had just arrived. So this is this slide deck. That QR code is this entire slide deck, and I'll post it in the Minami Discord if you want to view it later on. Comments very, very welcome. And I also am making in the middle of making you a mixtape. So this link will take you to YouTube, and I put in all of the opening TV themes of all the cartoons and all the stuff that I talked about here that I can find. So yeah, thank you. That's it. We gotta go. Thank you.